2 weeks had passed since the contentious board meeting. In that short time, the subtle shift in Heir Group's inner circle became unmistakable. Damien Voss's presence in the company had gone from that of a consultant to an unofficial partner, and Vivienne's favored ally. To most employees, Lucien Cross remained what he had always been, the quiet analyst at the far end of the table. Yet there was something in the way he carried himself now, still calm, still reserved, but with a focus that felt as if he were watching an unseen horizon. The plain silver crescent moon earring on his left ear glinted under the morning sun as he stepped through the glass doors of the Heir Tower. No one noticed it. No one ever did. By late afternoon, the mood in the headquarters turned tense. A logistics partner supplying Heir Group had abruptly pulled out of a major contract, threatening to delay the rollout of their new regional service by at least 6 months. The news spread quickly, whispered in corridors and cafeterias. Vivienne called an emergency strategy session. Directors and department heads rushed into the boardroom. Lucien entered quietly last, taking his seat at the end, notebook in hand. Vivienne stood at the head of the table, her tone clipped. "The withdrawal of Garrison Logistics is a blow. We can't afford delays. Damien, you've looked into this. Tell us your assessment." Damien leaned forward, voice steady, but carrying a hint of controlled urgency. Garrison's pullout isn't about the contract terms. They've been approached by Revante Group, one of our competitors. Revante's promising them exclusive routes and a bigger share in future projects. We need to counter with a more aggressive offer. One director frowned. That could cut too deep into our margins. Vivienne's emerald eyes hardened. Margins mean nothing if we can't even roll out the service. Damien spread his hands with a confident smile. This is about leverage. We show strength now, we save the project. We can recover profits later. At the far end of the table, Lucien finally spoke. If we offer more incentives without addressing Revante's root bottleneck, Garrison will keep playing both sides. They're using us to drive Revante's bid higher. The room went quiet for a second. Lucien continued. I've analyzed Revante's current routes. They're already stretched thin in the northeastern corridor. If we secure exclusive shipping rights on that corridor, we'll have leverage. Garrison will come back to us on our terms. Vivienne's voice turned cool. And how do you propose we secure that corridor when Revante has already locked in their carriers? Lucien met her eyes evenly. By partnering with smaller local carriers that Revante overlooked. The data shows they handle 30% of the corridor's freight. Consolidating them would take work, but it's cheaper than outbidding Revante. A few directors murmured, intrigued by the idea. But Damien's confident tone quickly filled the room. That's a long game. We don't have time for piecemeal solutions. We need Garrison back now. Vivienne nodded slightly toward Damien and said, We'll reconvene tomorrow to finalize the new offer. Meeting adjourned. As the room emptied, Lucien packed his notes in silence. Outside in the hallway, Vivienne caught up to him. Lucien, I know you mean well, but sometimes you have to think bigger than logistics and numbers. This isn't an academic exercise. Lucien's reply was quiet but firm. It's not an academic exercise. It's leverage. You don't win negotiations by outspending the opponent. You win by shifting the balance. Vivienne crossed her arms. Damien understands the bigger picture. You keep focusing on the little details. For a moment, Lucien's expression was unreadable. Only the faint gleam of the crescent earring moved as he inclined his head slightly. The little details often decide who ends up holding the bigger picture. He walked away without another word. That evening, back in his modest apartment, Lucien sat at his desk reviewing route data and carrier reports. The lamplight caught on the silver crescent at his ear as it swayed gently when he turned the pages. On his phone was a message from his younger sister, a short one, almost teasing. You always liked solving puzzles more than impressing people. Don't let them convince you that patience is weakness. Lucien smiled faintly at the message, then closed his eyes for a moment. The Cross family tradition was not just about enduring hardship, it was about learning to see the board clearly when others were blinded by ego or panic. The following morning, before the directors' meeting, Lucien quietly approached two mid-level managers from the supply chain division. "I need the list of independent carriers operating in the Northeast Corridor, and I want data on their existing routes, capacities, and response times." The managers exchanged uncertain glances. One of the managers said, "Are you working on an alternative to the Garrison deal?" Lucien answered casually, "I'm preparing a fallback. If the board's plan fails, we won't have time to start from scratch." They hesitated, then nodded. In the executive lounge, Damien and Vivienne discussed the coming board session over coffee. Damien speaking confidently, "You'll see. Garrison will fold once we make the numbers irresistible. That's how these games are played." Vivienne gave a small smile, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Lucien doesn't usually speak unless he's sure. Sometimes I wonder if I'm too quick to dismiss him." Damien leaned back, his tone casual. "A man like that doesn't have the instincts for this world. Bright mind but no edge. You can't build empires on spreadsheets." Vivienne said nothing further. Over the next 48 hours, Lucien worked silently with the supply chain team, mapping routes and negotiating discreetly with local carriers. He made no mention of his progress in the official meetings. He watched as Damien and Vivienne pushed forward their aggressive offer to Garrison. The directors were convinced. A revised contract was prepared. But on the eve of signing, news arrived that Revante had upped their counteroffer yet again. Garrison's board postponed the decision, playing for more leverage. In the boardroom that evening, frustration rippled through the directors. Damien's confident front faltered slightly. Lucien finally spoke up. "We expected this. Garrison is not choosing, they're bidding. While we keep raising the stakes, they keep letting Revante climb higher." Vivienne turned toward him, her voice tight. "Then what do you propose now?" Lucien laid out a brief set of documents, agreements in principle from 3 regional carriers. "We no longer need Garrison's routes. We've secured 30% of the corridor through smaller carriers. That alone will strain Revante's capacity. Once we announce this, Garrison will realize they're losing leverage and they'll return to us on our terms." The room went still. For the first time, Damien had no ready counter. That night, as Lucien walked out of the building under the pale streetlights, the silver crescent earring swayed gently in the cold breeze. To most, it was just a piece of jewelry. But for him, it was the quiet emblem of the Cross family tradition, a reminder that patience and clarity were as powerful as wealth. In the quiet distance behind him, Vivienne stood by the glass window of her office, watching him go. For the first time in months, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. And so the man they thought they could cast aside had shifted the balance of the game, quietly, without fanfare, like the crescent moon that pulls the tides unseen.
Thank you for sharing this chapter with us at Velvet Chapters Brew. Comment, like, and subscribe to see where the next page takes us.